What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Sweat It Out podcast.
If you want to be successful, look inside.
We don't like sitting in the discomfort.
Then all of a sudden that day came when I got $20 and 2 free drinks to do a show, and I was like, oh shit, here we go, baby. You know?
Thank God she hasn't caught a chicken yet because she'll tear her head off.
Don't be soft.
That patience is key.
If all my friends are winning, then it's going to make me want to win more.
What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Sweat It Out podcast. Today we have a very special guest. When I tell you guys, this guy will get you published anywhere, he will literally get you published anywhere. He's a creator of Authority Titans and Kivo Daily. Guys, please help us welcome the one and only Dillon Kivo. What's up, brother?
What is going on, man? You should probably keep talking. I like the sound of that.
Woo!
I've been trying to convince him for like a couple of years now just to narrate my life and follow me around a little bit. You know, every time I walk through a door, introduce me to everybody, and then I can get on with my day.
Yeah, just kind of like make you look like Superman in front of everybody, right?
Yeah. You always need that one person, right?
Hey, listen, everyone needs a hype man.
See, but I can't do it for myself. That's the problem.
Nah, I mean, you could pay. You want to pay me? I'll do it.
You can pay me. I'll do it. Oh,
Okay,
I'll find somebody.
Yeah, there you go.
We got you. I'll pay both of you guys now. So how you been, man? How you been doing?
Good.
How are things going for you? I know, especially now during a time like this, things are a little shaky. But the beautiful thing is, I know you do a lot of things behind the screen or for the digital world. So I would definitely love to hear that and how that's been growing for you during a time like this, because I've been hearing that this space is extremely powerful. And press is something you definitely want to have when you're out there on the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And a lot of people have been asking that too on several podcasts and interviews. And a lot of people want to know, like, during a type like the whole COVID time, right? Like we've never, even the PR industry, we've never really come across something like this crazy with a big impact. And I think every industry in the world has been impacted, right? However, it's been really interesting because over the last 12 months, since everything really started with the whole coronavirus, I've actually noticed a huge increase in not only sales, but productivity and just like people really wanting to get their name and like the brand out there. And I think a lot of that, I think 50% of it could be political, how everybody, like everything was, the news was basically the spotlight, right? With like Trump and Biden and just all that stuff. And so because of that, everybody's attention was there. Everybody's eyes and ears were focused on the radio, TV, magazines, print, digital. And because of that, well, all my clients were like, holy crap, this is where I need to be. And so in order to get seen, they were hiring my firm, Authority Titans. And so I actually, funny enough, I actually had the biggest year ever last year versus the last 6 years of doing business. Wow. And even though a lot of people can argue, well, a lot of people's income was decreasing, which I'm sure by stats that's true, but everybody's attention was increasing. And people, it's kind of like sink or swim. It's like people at the end of the day, it's like they're going to throw the last buoy out there to do what they can to save their business. And I think the PR was kind of the best thing that people could think of that would actually move the needle. That was contactless, right? It wasn't advertised like even on the side of the freeway. That was kind of pointless for a time being because not that many people were driving. And so their audience was decreasing on the freeway. And with what I do, since everything's digital, it's easy to share the links. It's easier for SEO purposes, for people to organically find you on social, on Google. And so I think it started to click for people and it made sense to hire us to do what we do best.
Well, I'm going to tell you something, man. I'm seeing a huge trend where, a lot of people were, let's say 2014, 2015 through, let's say 2019, you got the whole social media attention. That's the attention. Everybody's social, pushing social, get the contacts through there, grow it. And now you're seeing a spiral effect where you're just seeing everything whiplash back to some old school methods where emails becoming popular, calling people is becoming popular, press releases, features coming out on TV is becoming popular again. And you're so right. I think it has to do with part of the whole political push during a time like this and COVID, where people want that attention, right? The attention where it's really where it's at right now. And with, you got the whole thing with social media and like, oh, we're being silenced. And
I think
the algorithm is holding us back. People are like, oh, I'm done with that shit. Let's put money in here. This is where the attention's at, right? So it's just interesting to see how things are working.
And I think everyone is really tired of and everyone kind of understands what social media is now, right? So following that whiplash effect, they're like, okay, we got to kind of get back to some of these things that might be a little more traditional, a little more beneficial for our mental health than, staring at our screen and trying to look at how many likes and followers we have.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. Just kind of piggyback off what you said too. It's like Instagram with them, hiding the like count, right? And so I think a lot of that was mental, and a lot of people were posting for kind of like vanity reasons. Whether that was like 1, 2 to 5,000 likes per image. It's like that's what they wanted, and that's what they were after. So I think that they were posting predicated based off what they think people wanted to see, versus the information that they wanted to deliver. And I think those are two completely different things, right? It's like, even for me with my audience, it's like, I can either post something that I think that they want to see, or I can post something that I want to deliver. And I think when you don't have the metrics publicly shown, I think it allows people to really be genuine in every single post that they make.
Totally hear you. No, and I definitely can agree with that, because it does mess with people's heads, especially when they're like, damn, but the numbers. It's like, don't worry so much about the numbers. Worry more about like, how are you going to provide value in the way that you want to provide value, knowing that regardless of the numbers, that what you're pushing makes you happy and you're serving somebody. I think that's the most important thing. And then I want to ask you, what is in your take? Because the way I look at social media, it's a tool, right? It's another tool. It's another tool for you to use. So what is your biggest take on how to use what you're doing with your features, your press, and then mixing that with social media? What is your favorite way to go about that?
Good question. So what I tell everybody is, at the end of the day, business is for money, right? So sales equals money. And in order to complete a proper transaction, in my opinion, the prospective client needs to know, like, and trust you. Well, for social media, like social media advertising, I do a lot of that, and so do plenty of others. Well, that's great for bringing the audience to your, whatever, it's a ClickFunnels, your Shopify page, your WordPress website. However, once they land there, from social media, that's what truly matters. That's kind of like when you go to buy a car and the salesman on the floor will talk to you for an hour, and then they bring in like the head manager, boss guy to close the deal. Well, in my mind, I look at PR as the thing that's going to actually close the deal. You can bring all the people to the party, but if nobody's actually going to come and buy something, what's the point? Yep. So social media to your website, your landing page, and that's when you want to have a massive list of all the publications that you've been in. The reason why is because when they see the third-party credibility from whether it's Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur, Yahoo, Business Insider, obviously the list goes on, that's what gets them to actually trust you. So in my opinion, if they automatically trust you because everything that you've listed on your website, that's about 30% of the transaction that you completely sold them on. Now, whether they're going to like you, that's kind of up to you, right? That's your personality. That's whether you do phone sales, that's your tonality and your voice and all that stuff. And I think that PR is it's underrated right now, but we're seeing a huge increase of it because the people that are getting PR, they're understanding their true power behind the PR that they're receiving, and they're seeing these side effects and with everything that it's been able to increase as far as sales is concerned. And everybody's kind of starting to jump on that bandwagon of, oh my gosh, all of my competitors are starting to get featured on all these mega publications. If I don't, then I'm probably going to get left behind.
And what is it from a consumer standpoint that really draws people into those within the online space who do get featured in, Inc. or in Business Insider or Entrepreneur? What, from a client standpoint, if you're the business owner, why do you want to get featured in these so that you can get more clients?
Good question. So there's different variables to that answer. So there's going to be like the organic reach, right? So if I get into Forbes, it's probably going to hit the first page of Google and for specific keywords that you probably want to be targeting, right? For example, if I'm a real estate agent in New York City and the title is top real estate agent in New York City, John Doe, has been selling massive amounts of houses or whatever it is, right? Well, people who aren't even looking for John Doe specifically, not looking for a specific person, but they're looking for a top real estate agent within their area, there's a good chance out of the 10 slots on Google on the page 1, there's a good chance that they're going to hit the Forbes link for multiple reasons. Forbes has a high reputation, people trust it. Well, if Forbes is talking very highly about John Doe, there's a great chance that the reader will hire John specifically because Forbes has said he is the best in the industry within his specific area. So now you have you kind of have hijacked the authority from Forbes, and they've given you like the nomination of you're the go-to guy. So I would say that's option, or the reason number 1 is organic reach. The second reason is kind of like what I was talking about previously about when people on your website, hey, I've been seen in Forbes. People like that, people respect it. So it just adds to the trust. There's that. And also most people don't get PR. So it's a great way to separate yourself from your competition in a positive way. And I think that's the difference is you're allowed to highlight your strengths and you're able to actually highlight your strengths and kind of, I don't want to say drown out your weaknesses, but we always want our clients and prospects to be looking at everything that we're the best for, not necessarily like, oh, here's a list of 100 real estate agents in New York and have them, you have a 1% chance they're actually going to pick your name on like yellow pages, right? So I think it's just a great way for people to find you, trust you. And then of course there's so much more of it though. They're going to have to like you. And there's so much more to the
Maybe that's my problem. People just don't like me. Fuck.
Maybe it's the mustache. I don't know.
Maybe. I got to get a beard like Mendez.
Right. You already know. But look, I'm going to tell you, you're exactly right. Trust is the biggest thing, and for me, that's why I love, having all this press and features and I believe in the PR because what it does, it eliminates you having to handle certain objections when you're actually in a client prospect call. It helps you navigate the coaching call much better or your sales call in many different ways, right? Automatically they're going to go in there with a different level of trust. They're going to see you as a different level of authority, credibility. And now it's less legwork for you to have to try to make this person realize why this is important for you when they've already are going to see, man, he's been on this. But look, not only has he been on this, look at they're talking about him, being atop this, being authority in his space, highlighting all those main things. And I think it's so important, for anybody out there who doesn't have press, you got to get on it ASAP because like Dillon said, you guys got to have yourself as the authority, especially if your competition is putting themselves out there in that space, and it will push you out eventually. And like you said, more and more now, like I'm seeing more and more people getting more and more press.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I'm like,
tons.
holy crap, everybody has press now, so it's really insane the amount of attention that's out there right now. And I'm really interested to know, because I want to ask you is, since there is a lot of that going on, people are going to then say, oh man, everybody's getting press now. What now? So for you, seeing where you're seeing things are going and the amount of attention that's out there now, how can you really now stick yourself out amongst those who are getting the attention, who are really putting themselves out with the press? How can you stick yourself out now amongst those people who already have that? And what are your go-to pubs features that you would recommend everybody should go after first, and then how should you portray yourself in those actual features to actually drive in traffic towards wherever it is that you're trying to drive it to?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It's kind of like, if everybody's doing it, is it really that valuable? Some people can argue the same thing about college, right? It's like everybody's got a bachelor's degree, and then everyone with bachelor's degrees, 80% of them, these are not real stats, but a large majority of those people don't have jobs, right? So that's a good point. However, just because a lot of people are doing it, which is true, I still think that we're still very early on in the game. I think that maybe, and I should probably look this up, maybe 10% of businesses really have PR, right? Now, I think what's going to happen is it's eventually when it gets up to like 50, 60, 75% of businesses have PR, I think it's going to be then split into kind of tiers, like your tier 1, 2, and 3. Because there's going to be the mom and pop blogs that kind of anybody can be on. But the website, the publications like New York Times, Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur, those are the ones that not anybody and everybody can get on. at the same time, I think that we're going to have to start switching up the platform itself. In my opinion, podcasts are replacing radio, right? So I think instead of just getting on like your local channel 7, you know, whether it's a news channel or a radio station within a specific area, I think people would be smarter to start doing podcasts, but high level podcasts like Sweat It Out, you know, something like Ed Milet or Dan, like, you know, just some like really big prominent podcasts that is also going to hold a lot of notoriety. And I think that it's the same thing with actual print and digital publications. You're always going to have like your Forbes Inc. Entrepreneur, and then you're just going to have like your smaller mom and pop blogs that really not that many people know about, but everybody can get on. So at the end of the day, it's like if somebody's been on Forbes or somebody's been on, you know, a LinkedIn Pulse like article, I think that as a consumer, they're going to be able to identify the clout level between the two.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's kind of like if somebody shops at Nordstrom's versus Walmart, you're still buying clothes.
Yeah.
Right. However, if somebody's wearing like a nice Louis Vuitton shirt versus a AAA shirt, it's like, yeah, they're still wearing a nice.
Yo, can you say that again though? Because he always shits on me for wearing nice clothes.
Always shits on me for wearing nice clothes. Your $200 t-shirts.
Yeah, just one more time for the people in the back.
You know, I used to shit on that too, honestly, until it's like, you know, then I started getting some cool watches like Rolex and stuff. And I figured out it's not the item that we're buying. It's the message that we're sending.
Facts.
The perception.
I think that's what it is, right? So It's like when you wear the Louis Vuitton or the Gucci or, you know, whatever it is, I feel like you kind of embody what you put on your body. Right? It's kind of like if I had this nice clothes on versus like AAA. And look, dude, I wear cheap shirts too and like clothing on. It's not about that. But it's like
this is all free.
If I'm going to like a specific,
Puma just gives me stuff, okay?
That's actually pretty dope. I'm jealous now.
Yeah, he's got too many pairs of shoes. Too many.
Really?
I thought I had a lot too many pairs.
I'm like, it looks like an MTV Cribs. Welcome to my cribs. Here's my closet.
Oh, wall.
Here's my MTV Cribs sponsored by Puma.
And then there'll be 2-3 boxes filled with shoes. I'm like, guys, here's some shoes. I don't know what to do with them. They're from an event. Well, here you go.
That's funny. Yeah, and see that's a good example too. But it's like if you're going to, I think at the end of the day, it's like we have to know who our audience. We have to know who we're speaking to. So if I'm going to a high-end business meeting with a Fortune 500 client, I know that I should probably wear the Rolex. I should probably wear the Gucci's, the Louis, whatever it is, right? Because I know that's kind of I'm able to relate to them off that level. If I'm going to one of my artists in downtown LA that just wears whatever, he's up and coming, he would probably rather see me wearing something a lot more in common to what he has, so he feels like he can relate to me.
Amen.
And I think at the end of the day, it's like no matter what you're doing when it comes to business, as long as you know your audience better than your competitors, I think that's how you're going to win them over.
No, you said it, man. It was funny because I was having some convo. We've had these convos. I had a convo with another buddy of mine, and we're like, it's so crazy, though, because you actually think about when you start getting to a certain level, like you actually have to start having certain things, not because of so much of like, oh, because you have to have them because you only want to look cool, but it's more because of like, you have to start embodying that because it is going to help you with certain deals, certain networks, certain conversations, and then knowing how to shift yourself out with your audience, like, or somebody you're networking with. Okay, what do they like? Okay, how do they look like? What do they like to wear? Where do they like to appear in? Are they really this flashy? Are they really not? Like, okay, let's try to mimic that a little bit. The same way you would mimic somebody in a conversation. If they're talking loud, you're going to have to match them somewhat. If they're talking low, match them. Don't try to like outbeat their energy or drop yourself down. So it's so true, man, and how funny like the person's mind works.
It's all perception, right? Though, like you're spot on. Some of the best conversations I've had with people that have like been integral into my network on the beach have come from people being like, "Oh, you got some nice shoes on. Where'd you get those? Like, I haven't seen those before." Or like, "Oh, you have a nice T-shirt on. Like, I like your T-shirt. I have the same one." You know, and I'm like, okay. I started talking to them and my friend's like, how'd you meet this person? I'm like, oh, I wore this Palm Angels T-shirt, and they were like, I like your T. I like your. I'm like, listen, it's that crazy, but that's the stuff that really does get you in the door sometimes, right? And it's not really how you get in there, but once you're in there, what you do. you know?
Yeah, it's kind of like a statement piece, a conversation starter, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's honestly like what you wear is another great way to separate yourself from the person sitting next to you, right? And so if everybody has on the same black and white shirts, but you have on a bright yellow, bright pink shirt, there's a great chance that more people are going to look at you, and there's probably a better chance they're probably going to talk to you first because you're different.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So I want to ask you, how'd you get into all of this in the first place? You know, what was your driver? What really caught your attention, first of all, to really dive into the PR realm, the features of pubs, and then capitalize it to the point where you are so successful right now, and then just really erupt during a time like this?
Yeah, I like that. You know, I was thinking about this yesterday, how crazy is that you actually asked me this today. I know I was extremely curious about how people actually became famous celebrities. I had no idea, right? It's like, because I grew up in California, you know, about 45 minutes from LA, but I was very curious on, like, at the time, what truly separated myself from them. It wasn't the 45-minute drive. It was something with it, right? And I think because of that, I grew so curious to the extent of, like, I'm so curious, I have to figure this out. And it wasn't like, oh, I need to be famous myself or anything like that. It's just that I was almost becoming obsessive over the ability to make somebody famous and whatever it was that they did. And so back when I was 22, I got this mentor. His name was Paul. And he literally changed my life. So it was somebody he wasn't necessarily like famous. Like, that's not like I was going to like Jay-Z or Drake and say, hey, show me your waist. Nothing like that. But he was extremely successful, like, with a business. And I mean, his business right now is worth, I'd say, just shy of like $2.5 billion.
Ooh, shout out to Paul, baby. Woo.
Yeah, dude, maybe even 3, right? And so 3 Bs. So, you know, he's got all the nicest cars. He's got the Rolls Royces, the Mercedes, the Ferraris, the Lambo, everything you can think of. And I remember the first day that I met him in person, I was working for him for about 6 months. I was living in Virginia Beach at the time. And he's like, hey, man, I really like your work ethic. I want to basically take you. He said this word for word. He said, I want to take you under my wing. And I was 22, no college, and he was my only source of income. This is after I finished firefighting, because I just wasn't making a lot of money and doing a lot of stuff, and it wasn't enough to support, you know, really my ambitions. And I moved to Nashville from Virginia, and we're driving the first day, driving around like his Lamborghini, showing me like his nice, you know, 12,000 square foot home. And we drive down the street and he shows me all of his other houses. Long story short, this dude was loaded. And I said, screw the fame shit, I want the money. Like, this is what I want. Yeah. Because we
say that all the time. Like,
it's like, just because somebody's famous, you know, a celebrity or just well known, does not mean that they have like the finances to back that up or to show forth, right? It's one thing for everybody to know you, but it's one thing to have a larger bank account.
I want to stop you real quick because I find this so fun. I'm like, guys, those guys that you probably see on Instagram where you see a few pictures and they look like they're loaded, they're the ones with the least followers and no blue check. Mm-hmm. But they're the most loaded guys ever.
I have clients with hundreds of millions and don't even have a social media account. They're like, oh, I go on Facebook to post pictures of vacation.
LinkedIn, right?
That's it. Yeah, LinkedIn. They have LinkedIn. But like no Instagram, or they do, it's like private. They have like 13 followers.
I know.
But they have like that, like 12,000 square foot house on the beach.
Yep. And then they only got like 10 photos on their IG, but they're all like,
it's like family. Their dog. It's like their backyard. It's like a barbecue.
They're not even good photos.
No, they're terrible.
Yeah, that's so funny. Or it's like they show, you know, you see a car on there, but it's like their son or daughters, and it's like a decent car. And it's like, dude, you have freaking 3 Lambos in the garage. And like they just don't. Nah. But that's the thing too. Is like it's because they're after the right game. Like they're playing the right game. It's like they're after finances, not fame. And I think that a lot of people, it's like they think that finances equal fame. And like most people think that. Yep. I agree to it it makes life easier for sales. Like I get that, just like what I was talking about earlier. It's like the PR, the social media followers, verification, all that. So it helps you. But if you're after fame for money, that's when I think you're going to fail, right? So anyways, back to my story though, like with Paul, for 3 years, he basically just showed me everything he knew when it comes to like business foundation and all that fun stuff. And half of it was boring, but 100% of it was beneficial, right? And so as soon as I blew him up on social, like I got him into like major publications. I grew his social media to like, you know, millions of followers, got him verified and all that, you know, cool stuff. I said, you know what, after 3 years, I pretty much thought I learned everything I could from him, and we're still friends and everything, great relationship. But I said, I'm going to basically do what I did for you for like hundreds of other people. And so that's what I did, right? So I ended up stop working for him. And then, you know, pretty close after that, I got a massive CBD client. It's not a person like I was hoping for, but it was still a brand. And that's all I cared about, right? It's just like improving the presence of brands, whether it was people or businesses. And yeah, it's a company called CBD MD. And they're pretty popular. They're
crushing it. They're crushing it.
Yeah, they're the first company literally in America.
Yeah, like, yeah, just this little company called CBMD. You're like, oh, just like one of the biggest CBD companies out there now. Like this tiny conglomerate of CBD.
No, but that's the thing is like but that was my how, right? It's like I learned everything from him and then I just reapplied it elsewhere.
So
and that's what
he showed you how to get all the features and pubs and all that stuff?
So no, he actually taught me zero of that. He knew none of that. However, he allowed me the environment to be able to learn how to do that on my own. So I was financially stable to have the couple years to get really good at one thing and become the best at it while improving his social media, managing his websites, and, you know, getting him into publications all at the same time. But it was honestly kind of learning on the job, but he indirectly taught me how. Okay. He gave me the space and the ability and time and resources to learn what I had to learn. Without him, I would have been doing probably the 9 to 5 somewhere else, making, you know, 10, 15 bucks an hour, whatever, right? But I wouldn't have had the time to be able to learn, because I was doing, you know, 15 hours a day, every day for 3 years, just learning and trying to become the best at this one thing. And the reason that I chose PR versus the website design that I was doing for him and the social media stuff was for one reason. I found the power in PR very early on. And I realized, like, as soon as I started getting him on the major publications, that's when the social media started blowing up. That's when his website started blowing up. So it's like PR was indirectly positively affecting the rest of his life.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
All areas, I should say.
I have a question for you, because something you said really resonated with me, and it's something that Anthony and I talk about quite a bit, is that, you know, fame doesn't necessarily directly correlate to wealth, right? Or the money that you're bringing in. How do you help steer people away from the mindset that, oh, I just got to get famous. I just got to get famous. I just got to, in order to drive money, drive wealth, drive revenue, instead of the other way, like, hey, let me drive some revenue. And then once I become successful, then, you know, let the success show the fame that you have, right? Through things like you're doing with your PR agency.
Before I give my answer, I'm going to tell you guys have asked the best questions out of every podcast I've ever been on.
Appreciate that.
It means a lot, man.
It means a lot.
Yeah. This is different. I like it. It's like an actual conversation. So
appreciate that.
Yeah. We're
so
very intrigued, honestly. So thank you for delivering that.
That's a really good question. And I like how every question you guys have asked me so far, it's something I've never gotten before, for the most part. Right. So I'll answer your question now. So basically, everybody wants to be in Forbes. Everybody wants to be in New York Times. And I get it. Everybody wants to be verified. I get it. Right. However, if their product or service is trash, no matter how famous they are, no matter how many followers they have, no matter how many people that they can, you know, get them to call them on a daily basis, if their product and service is trash, their revenue is going to be trash. You're only as good as your weakest product or service. And so for me, it's like, I pride myself and my team on delivering delivering the clients, number one, the best customer service. Sales is number 2 for me. It's obviously important. I do believe that sales is kind of like the lifeblood of a company. But at the same time, if your business isn't stable enough to maintain the clientele that you have, you'll never scale. You'll never grow, because everybody that's coming through your door is going to be exiting the next day. And so the whole goal with sales is to bring as many people into the building and to keep them there. And I think when it comes to kind of educating people on why being famous is, yes, it's important, but it shouldn't ever be the end goal, is because I tell everybody, focus on your product and service first. Make that the best of its kind. And then once that is the best, and you know it truly is the best, not because your mom and daddy tell you it's the best, because the market actually votes with their credit cards. If people are actually spending money with you and they're telling you that it's the best product or service that they've ever purchased, then you know that you have something that's actually worth becoming famous or verifiable. And I think that once they get the order straight, it's kind of like the horse before the cart. Once they get the order straight, is once they prioritize their product and service needs to become number one, and then they can focus on the fame. That's when the fame amplifies their business. But you can't do it the other way around, because a lot of people, they're like, oh my gosh, I want to be famous and then I want to become a good actor. It's like, you have to be a good actor in order to get famous properly. And the last thing I'll say is, you don't ever want to get famous for the wrong reason. And a lot of people, it's like, yeah, I don't care, man, just make me famous. That's stupid. Why? Why would you want me to build an empire around your name and brand you something that you don't even want to be? That's like McDonald's coming to say, before they became McDonald's, and saying, hey, we want you to brand us as In-N-Out. And it's like, dude, your brand is McDonald's. Why do you want to come to me and say you want to be known as something that you're truly not? It makes no sense. So I think it's like identifying people's reasons for wanting to become famous and say, okay, great. Now that we've identified that, let's prioritize that. Let's put that number one. And then once you are actually the best at what you do, then let's become famous.
I love that we're talking about this, because there are steps and orders to things, right? And I think it's so important for people to know that. And I think that there's a lot of people, and look, there's a lot of people who are just saying, I want to be famous because they just want to get out of something or just finally experience that and just get a taste of what it is. And not necessarily that they're bad people. It's just they're just fed up and they want more. And I think a lot of people are just confused. They don't have direction. They don't know where to start. They don't know where to go. And they don't understand that this is the order you need to take, so you can understand, okay, now if you want to become famous, this is why you're becoming famous, because you're doing what you love. And now you're truly influencing people. You're not just known as an influencer. Now you're a real influencer. Right. You're driving real influence because you mastered your craft, and now you're really impacting people before you were even famous. That's what makes you what you are today. And I think it's so amazing that you brought that up. Now, I know a lot of people hear this and they'll be like, man, that sounds so easy, but how do I get started? What should I do? I want to ask you, Dillon, what are some of the things you do? Because you said service was your number one thing, sales number two, and then moving forward from there. So what do you do when it comes to your customer service? Walk us through some of those steps, and then kind of like, how you approach your sales, if you don't mind, just because I think it is important for people to understand that, if you do take care of those things, the rest is history and the rest will just blow up for you.
Yeah. So I think, at the end of the day, everybody's business is different, right? So like if you have a construction business versus a real estate agent, your lead source and supply is going to be completely different, right? So I can only speak on like my company, which obviously that's what you asked and that's what I'll do. So for me, it's like a lot of this stuff is driven from social media, right? And so they'll come in through social media, they set up an appointment with my sales team, and then my sales team will sell them on whatever it is that the client needs. And that's one thing I'm massive on is I really teach and educate my sales team. Really, I talk to them every single day. So it's like, this isn't something where it's like, I just touch base with them once a month and see them, check in, right? My biggest thing is only sell our services to those who can actually benefit from. And there's a lot of people where we actually turn away. There's a lot of people that come to us and their only goal is to get verified on social media. That's big, right? However, that's not something that we do. I have never in my life ever taken in money just to get somebody a blue check. However, people have come to me and said, hey, I want to blow up my personal brand. I want to, get a lot of followers and do all this stuff and get press. Okay, yes, we can do the press part. And because of all the publications that they've been featured in and the credibility that they have earned in their space, that has got them verified. So we have indirectly helped people, but it's not like you can just go on a marketplace and just purchase a blue badge. It just doesn't work that way. In order to be verified, you have to actually be verifiable and worthy of that mark, right? So, but falling back around, what I do is when it comes to the sales team is, one, it's educating them on what our clients truly need, not what they want. And a lot of times our clients, they want something that is completely ass backwards for something that we actually sell them. And it's not, and sometimes we sell them something that's more money, and sometimes we sell them something that's cheaper than what they expected, because we go based off of their needs, not their wants. And the way that I operate is, I'm definitely a customer service driven, business, especially because PR is certainly a communication based industry. Like if my communications is bad with my clients, well, then the message that we're sending out to their audience and the masses is probably going to be even worse. And so I make sure to have, 1 or 2 extra people staffed on a daily basis to make sure that we can answer their questions as quickly and efficiently as possible. So it's taking care of just the basic, customer service questions of, when is my article going to get published and all this type of stuff. So that's kind of just like how that's ran. But I will say that, it's really important to have a team that's bought into the system, that everybody is co-creating at the same time. When people think of like leadership, it's like where you have somebody in front and everybody else is behind. I don't run my business that way. We're all linear. We're all on the same level. I just happen to be the person that has the ability to have a little bit louder of a voice and to give a little bit leadership and direction for everybody else in their position. And the biggest reason, it's not because just because I'm the CEO, I get to do that. It's because I know that I've done everybody's position for so long that I'm experienced and I know what works, and I know how to deliver the best product and service for our clients more than anybody that's hired on my company. And I think as the leader, like, it's supposed to be that way. Like, I had to do all the sales, I had to do all the writing, all the marketing, all the HR, like the customer service, all that stuff. Like, if I wasn't the best in my company at all those little things and then allowed them to grow and then be better than me, I would really suffer. My business would suffer because I wouldn't know like what the gold standard is, right? If I just hire somebody to go, hey, go sell my product, but I have no idea how to sell PR, what makes me think that I'm going to be able to know what that gold level of standard is, that they should be above this specific, point in their everyday sales? Same with customer service. It's like, if I know that they should be able to respond to 100 tickets a day, but they're only responding to 50, but I've never done it before, I may think 50 is like the gold standard, but that's only 50% of what I'm supposed to be receiving. So I think it's knowing the ins and outs of your business better than everybody that you hire. And then when you hire people, you should look at them as like adding an extra arm to your body. They should be an extension of the core of what the business truly is.
Powerful, man. Powerful. Because really from there, what stuck out to me, I'll tell you right now, the most was the fact that you said, I became a master at every single position that is on my team. And I think a lot of people, when they go into starting a business, sometimes when they forget, it's like, man, but I'm the CEO and I just, that name, that stamp, and they haven't really tried everything in their business. And sometimes they're like confused of like, okay, but how do I do this? How do I do that? I only know how to do this. Well, maybe you should have taken time to actually try the other different things in your business before jumping off full head steam and realizing, oh shit, why isn't my team delivering the quality I thought they were? And it's because you haven't given it enough time for you to actually understand what those positions are. And I think that was amazing, man, because I think a lot of people do suffer with that, whether it's because they do it on purpose or not. It's just a fact that it happens so often, and many businesses fail because of that. And I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, 100%.
And you even talked about it with your mentor, right, Paul? And you said he gave you, the time, the space, and the resources to be able to go and kind of make your own way through the industry and be able to do your own thing while also helping him out, right? Which is obviously the end goal when you're working for somebody. How do you know how much time is needed for something? How do you know how much space you really can give someone, how much wiggle room you can give them, what resources are needed if you haven't done it yourself, right? So
do you mean more the perspective of like, if I'm hiring an employee, how much time or wiggle room can I give them before I feel like, okay, you should have,
I was doubling down on what you two were saying, just in that, if you haven't walked that walk yourself, you don't necessarily know.
Oh, got it.
What resources are needed, what space is really available for that person, and how much time you really should be allotting that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, good point. It's like if I have nothing to go based off of, It's like they can be doing anything in their job, and I can have no idea if that's good or bad, right? And so I'm huge with like metrics and data and just going over all that with each and every one of my employees for sure.
I will try to turn it into a question for you though. How do you know when to give more space? How do you know when to kind of rein things in a little bit with your employees?
I love that. So one thing that I've learned, so I grew up playing hockey, like very competitive hockey, and I've been fortunate enough to be captains and assistant captains on, I would say, like 80% of my hockey teams, which has been
what article on Google can we find that on?
Honestly, I think there is something on that. That's funny. But that's the thing is, so because I had the privilege and honor to be able to do that, at the time, I was learning leadership. I didn't know that I was learning how to actually run a company from the age of like 4 years old to 20 years old, right? So, but at the same time, that kind of goes to show you that everything in life is used multifaceted, right? It's like everything that we do should not be only used for one thing. It's like if I like this cup right here, yes, I can drink water out of it, but I could also take a bath with it, right? It's like you can do so many different things, which each experience that you've learned and that you've, even for every challenge that you've been able to overcome, it's like you need to be able to pour in different things into different areas of your life. So because of hockey, it has taught me that everybody learns differently and everybody likes to be rewarded differently. Like me personally, I like to be rewarded with words, not necessarily just like, hey, here's more money for doing good. So it's knowing each and every one of your employees, what their triggers are. And I can't treat, even though like I have 4 amazing sales guys, I can't treat them all the same. I can't tell, for example, like my brother actually works for me. He's got his master's degree. He's extremely smart and he's really good at sales. Well, he's a hell of a lot more hard-headed than like my other sales guy, Kyle. So when I'm talking to, Daniel, I have to talk to him like I'm talking to another like C-level executive or something along those, to a little more sharky, right? Of like upfront, just details. Hey man, do better. This is why, and that's it. Hang up the phone, right? But with Kyle, it's more of like, it's a little softer tone. It doesn't matter. It's more of just same thing, right? Knowing your audience with sales. It's knowing your employees in order for them to function and perform at their whatever their 100% is. And so I think it's knowing how to correct them and also reward them. That's extremely important to know your employees of like their characteristics and how they receive information versus just thinking everybody likes high fives and $100 in their pocket.
You said it, man, and it's so funny, but it goes across the board with everything, right? Like even with your clients, same thing with your teammates. You have to learn how to adapt. You have to be adaptable because if you're not, what you thought worked for somebody is not going to work for somebody else necessarily. And I got to give you kudos too, because the fact that you have your brother in there working, not many people can make that happen. Having a family member, and I wanted to ask you that real quick is, when you brought your brother on, how was that, at the beginning? And how'd you make it happen? Because I know a lot of people it's usually like two ends. It can do really, really well, or it can be like really, really bad.
Yeah, of course. So this is the thing. The reason why it works is because we both equally agree that it's going to work, right? Just like any relationship, there's no different relationship between me hiring my brother or me hiring one of you two, right? And at the end of the day, if both people want it to work, it's going to work. And even with my brother, there is no special treatment. There's no, hey man, I'm going to throw you extra leads. None of that. Absolutely not. First of all, everything's fair. So I think I love this question, man. It's like, it's setting the standard for each individual employee. And that still goes with my brother, right? Even though he's blood, it doesn't mean that he gets special treatment, right? So it's more of setting the boundaries up front. Hey, even though you're my brother, you still have to follow the same guidelines as every other sales guy. Cool, got it, good. However, he still gets the NDAs, the contracts, all the legal stuff. He gets that just like everybody else. So the way that I look at it is before the clock and after the clock. So before the clock would be during work hours and after work hours. If I talk to him, whatever, it's strictly business. Obviously, we can have personal conversations within hours. It doesn't really matter. But the way that the conversation is viewed is all business. Just like if I were to call Kyle, it's all business, right? And I think it's just setting boundaries. It's setting boundaries of, hey, even though you're my brother, you are still held at the same accountability and responsibility level as everybody else. And I think once you do that, everything else kind of goes away because there's no expectations. And I think a lot of people, things don't work because expectations aren't met, but I don't think expectations should really even be a real thing in business because I think expectations are a false sense of how we view somebody without setting boundaries. And if we have set boundaries before anything, well, expectations go out the window. It's just, no, these are my rules. And if rules are broken, expectations are also broken too. But I don't even look at expectations when it comes to business, because if I'm expecting somebody or somebody else to perform how I think they should, I'm not in their head, I'm not in their body. It's not fair for me because I'm gonna get stressed, but it's also not fair for them because they don't deserve the expectations that I set forth on their life because I'm not in control of it. And I think because of that, it's allowed me to not only have him, like my own brother as a working employee, he does really well, but most importantly, it's been easier to trust him versus maybe a new oncoming employee that I've never met, of course, because now it's like, it kind of works in my favor because I have the automatic trust because he's my brother. But then at the same time, it's like, because I've been able to set the boundaries, it's been able to create that comfortable workspace that like, hey man, there's still boundaries or rules that you have to follow. But on the personal side of things, it's like, I also know that I'm not going to get screwed over because he's the one that has to have, Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner with me. Know what I mean?
Love that. And then at home, you're like, Mom, tell him to stop.
He said this. yeah. Go back to work. Yeah, no, it's true. It's just, but it's been good. It's been good, and he's actually one of my top performing. He
better be. He better be.
Yeah, right.
He better be.
No, that's amazing.
Call mom on him.
Yeah,
right. That's it,
yeah.
Mom.
Oh man, well, Dillon, listen, we're almost at that time. We know that you're a very busy man, and we don't want to hold you up. I want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'm sure I speak for Mendez. Thank you for coming on the podcast. You've dropped some serious bombs and really brought some insight into the world of PR and how you guys are doing things at Authority Titans, and we really appreciate everything you were able to share with not only ourselves but our audience.
Absolutely. And I appreciate the time. We'll definitely be sharing this along with you guys. This has been a very fun podcast. If you guys ever need me to connect you guys with anybody, let me know.
I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Really. And once again, like Josh said, we really appreciate you coming on here and not only sharing, the world of PR, but also sharing the way that you operate your business, the mentors you had, where you started, your story, because I think that is as powerful for people to hear. And let them know that there's hope in anybody if they really take it seriously and take the right steps. And hey, guys, remember, don't just do it to be famous. All right, do it because there's a purpose behind it. And I really appreciate that. And I think it's truly amazing what you've done.
Awesome, I appreciate that. Absolutely.
Now I want to ask you before we wrap things up, where can people reach out? Where can people connect with you? I know I have some quick rapid fire questions that I always do at the end, but where can people connect?
Definitely Instagram would be probably the easiest, just at Dillon Kivo, DILLONKI, V as in Victor O, or email me at dillon@authoritytitans.com.
You got that fresh sign behind you.
Woo!
Yeah, it's pretty cool, huh?
A little blue check.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, time for the rapid burners. All right, question number one. What is or what has been the biggest challenge you've ever faced in your career so far till date?
Definitely focusing on what serves the clients and customers better versus just taking the paycheck. Boom. I think that it's that constant battle of always sticking true to myself of like, I'm always going to deliver the best, product or services from our clients, regardless of if it means more or less money.
Amazing answer. Question number 2. Who is the biggest person that you've actually done work for that you're like, holy crap, I can't believe I'm doing this for this person?
Definitely Ice Cube.
Ooh,
unreal.
That is unreal.
Yeah.
That's pretty sick. That's pretty sick.
For sure.
Question number 3. What is the craziest and wildest experience you've ever had in your career?
Honestly, got to stick to the same thing with the last one is we had floor seats right next to Ice Cube for the Big 3 tournament, basketball tournament.
So epic.
And honestly, the coolest experience, like this is no joke too, and it's not that big, but it was him coming up to like us versus like it was me and 2 other people versus like us going up to him. I think
That's
probably
sick.
Such a power move. Way
That
better.
is-
Yeah, right.
You guys
Way
heard
better.
that? You guys heard that? Ice Cube came to Dillon. Woo!
And it has nothing to do with like, oh, like just he's so famous and like starstruck. It's not that. It was more the concept.
For sure.
You know?
No, and look, the work you've done proves itself, right? And when you do great work, people will resonate and come to you. So I think that's amazing.
I appreciate that.
Last and final question. What is the biggest piece of advice you can leave off to all our listeners today in one sentence?
Get as comfortable with failure as possible, but just know that you're never supposed to stay in that spot. You're supposed to use that as a rebound for success.
Love that answer. Damn. You guys heard it from Dillon Kivo himself.
I wish I had more, but yeah, I wish I had more than a sentence, but that's probably what I'd give.
Hey,
It's
that's
just
great, man. You've
kind
been
of-
dropping bombs all day.
It's just knowing that like, failure really is inevitable. And, success, in my opinion, is kind of guaranteed as long as you don't stay in the failure mode.
Fail
Yeah.
forward, fail fast, and let's keep
Yeah.
100%.
Exactly.
All right, guys. Thank you again, Dillon, for coming on. Make sure you guys go check out Dillon and everything he's got going on with Authority Titans. Until next time, everybody.